What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Episode three. Episode three. Why you were never meant to be rich. Hold on. My bad, guys. Let me turn this off for y'all. I don't know why that made noise. I have it on Don't Disturb. But, anyways, why aren't most people meant to be rich? And is it an accident or is it by design? But I guarantee you it's not an accident. See, the design, it's man-made, which means it can be altered. It's your job to change that reality. And how do you change that reality? Well, most of it comes down to money. But then you have to ask yourself, what is money? So, what's money? Money has to be two core things. One, it has to be a store of value. And two, it has to be a means of exchange. So that's why you have gold that can be used as legal tender because you can store gold can be you can store value in gold, right? And you can use coins or bars or however you want, but you can exchange gold. It has a value. It has a means of exchange and has a store of value. Okay, now that we know what money is, why do we want money? And again, there's two main reasons why I believe most people want money. One is materialism. It's money allows you to drive that car you want. Money allows you to buy that house you want. Money allows you to buy food. Sometimes it's necessities. So money allows you to buy things, to buy stuff. The other reason why people want money is because money gives you money is wealth. But what is wealth? And to me, one of the simplest ways to define wealth is abundance. A lot of money, meaning you have an abundance of money, is wealth. So, again, to the question, is it an accident or is it done by design that most people are not meant to be rich? So, you have to ask the question, who would it benefit for you to be poor? And when I think about that, it's the government and the system, right? Because why would the government benefit from most of its constituents being poor? What does the government want? It wants control. But control to do what? Well, as much as they can get away with, as much as we give them or allow them the power to do things to get away with. So, does it benefit you or does it benefit the system to normalize a materialistic society? To have one or two parents in the workforce, to be financially free or to owe debts, to not teach economics at school. And why? And I'm going to recite a famous quote from the Bible that goes, "The borrower is a slave to the lender." So, if you're in debt, you have to go to work. If you're in debt, someone is making money from it. If you're in debt, you're under control. And who wants control? Who feeds the system then? Us. We give up control, they get control. So you start peeling the layers back by simply just asking the whys, and you break it down that way. And it's where you start to see that you've been programmed to choose luxury over over what's enough, right? A girl wants that Louis Vuitton bag rather than that bag from Target. A guy wants that Lamborghini rather than that Honda. And there's not to say that it's bad, but there's a difference between what you can buy and what you can afford. There's also a difference between being rich in material, being rich on paper, and being rich with love, with family, with people, being rich socially, being rich in life, being rich with time, being rich with health. So that's where you also ask the question, it's you've been programmed this way since infancy, right? I don't know where most of you went to school, but I remember when I went to school, and I remember if it ain't cost at least $100, if it wasn't a Jordan, if it wasn't Nike, if it wasn't Adidas, if it wasn't a name brand, you were being made fun of. You got bullied. Just keeping it a buck. So even socially as kids, we're pressured amongst ourselves to go for that materialistic thing. And because our parents actually love us so much, or even because they themselves have been programmed, they go out and they spend those $200 that they couldn't afford to spend. you know? So again, you have to ask yourself, who does it benefit? And why does this happen? Because as a kid, you're a kid. You truly wouldn't care about what you're wearing, about what you look like, about what brand you're carrying. You don't care about that stuff. The only thing you care about is getting on that game every night. You don't care about homework. You don't care about, you hardly care about food. You don't care about eating at the nicest restaurant in town so that you can post it for your friends. But you're programmed to. You're programmed to because of the illusion of success. But most people can't even afford that illusion, which is why they go into debt. But on the other side of that debt are the people that you're giving your control up to. So you get that mortgage for 30 years, you get those student loans, and you get those student loans because you were told since a kid, you got to go to college or you don't get a good job, which is so mind blowing because most people that, well, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of people coming out of college can't even get a job. So, how does that work? And you go and you get that car. So, everything's on a loan, everything is on credit, eh, which is so crazy because in other countries, in other places in the world, if you can't buy it outright, if you can't afford it for the most part, they're not selling it to you. But America will. And the kids are programmed to do the same thing because they've been told these things since they were kids. But the truth is that the school system was made as a way to produce assembly line workers. So, what's the irony? It's that you have the blind leading the blind because you have adults with bad financial habits, yet the nation as a whole, the country, does too. And it's not stopping because at any time you can go to nationaldebtclock.org and I didn't want that. Here we go. US national debt 37 trillion 519 billion 237 million 400,000 plus and counting and counting. So you have a country that's in debt how can you expect its constituents to not follow in the same direction? But how is this happening? Well, through the devaluation of the dollar, through the printing of money. And as time continues, the value of someone's work is worth less and less and less, meaning that it's getting harder for you to escape. So that loan that you took out, that was 10,000, that was 20,000, 30, 40, 50,000. You stuck with that number, but now you have to work more in the future to cover that debt. So again, why do you want money? And it should shy away from materialism. You want money because you want wealth, and wealth is abundance. But why is abundance important? And it's because it gives you freedom of time, it gives you freedom of access, it gives you freedom of health. So that time, but access, the health, that's going to allow you to create a space to develop, to better yourself, to work on yourself. And that space is what's going to put you in an upward spiral rather than down. And you'll see how life just gets better over time as you keep progressing and as you keep getting better, as you keep reading and acquiring knowledge and taking courses and studying history and studying taxes and studying investing and studying crypto, studying stocks, studying entrepreneurship, studying how to become a better father, studying how to become a better husband, studying how to become a better person. My bad. How to become a better coworker, how to become a person with better characteristics, better charisma. It's all those things that when you start to use your money to focus on yourself, to build yourself up, to level up, that that money that you invested into yourself is going to start to provide, my bad, that it's going to pay dividends where you are going to no longer have to slave away to pay for things that you did not need or for things that you might have needed, but you simply just were not paying for them efficiently. But again, that's why most people got to ask themselves, how do I get out of this rat race? How do I change my future? How do I work on myself to become a better person, to become the person that deserves to be rich? Because nobody's going to come save you. Nobody's going to come grab your hand and take you to the promised land. I mean, other than God. But even then, you have to work for it. Even then, you have to pray on it. Even then, you have to work on yourself to become the person that's adequate to live in that space, to live in that realm. But that's it for I guess today kind of turned into a rant. I'm not sure if it was so much educational. I hope it was. But you can take control of your future. You have to start by asking the questions though. It's in the questions. You got to understand that becoming rich doesn't happen by accident. At least 99% of the time it's done intentionally. So you got to figure out how you're going to do it. You got to figure out why you want to do it. And once you do those things, you got to actually show up and do it. But all right, y'all. Uh that's it for tonight. Thinking Out Loud, episode 3. See y'all next week.